and the rest of the federal family. As the President told the country yesterday, whatever is needed here in Kentucky and across any community affected by this tragic event, the federal government will do everything we can, everything in our power to help. Now, let me turn it over to FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell for further details. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Governor. And just to all of the people of Kentucky, my heart goes out to each and every one of you who have experienced the tragic events from these tornadoes. As you heard from the Governor, you had an outpouring of support that has come in from other communities, but I want you to know that the nation, your country, is praying with you. They're praying with you today for your speedy recovery and for all the tragedy that you have endured. I'd also like to recognize those first responders, the heroic efforts that they put forth over the last 40 hours since this tornado struck are just incredible. Going out there, not knowing maybe what their families were going through or their homes, and making sure that they're taking care of their communities. Our first responders across this nation are always amazing to me at how they are so available and go out and put themselves in harm's way to make sure that others can be safe. And so, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. And then the neighbors. We've also heard incredible stories of neighbors helping neighbors, neighbors rescuing people from rubble. You're also first responders, and thank you so much for all of the effort that you put in to make sure that your neighbors are safe. We did have an opportunity today to be able to visit a couple of areas that have been impacted. We were able to tour Graves County and Marshall County, as well as visit the candle factory. And as you heard the Governor say, me, myself, and the rest of the nation, we've been watching this. We've been seeing the pictures of this. But standing there, standing in these communities, you don't get that feeling from a picture. When you stand in one direction and look and see all of the devastation, and then just turn to your right and all of the devastation around you, you can't understand how this has impacted these communities until you're there, which is why it's so important to be here, to see it for myself, so we can make sure that we're providing the right level of assistance to help with your response and your ongoing recovery. We had the opportunity just a few moments ago to hear from the county executives, where the Governor brought them together to hear the impacts that they're having and some of their shortfalls. The things that we heard are housing. You've heard that before, that housing is going to be a tremendous need as we continue to go forward. Power, water, fuel, all of these things to help the communities start their rebuilding process. Because housing, we know, is going to be such a tremendous need, we are sending in one of our housing experts that will be here tomorrow to begin the strategy for how we're going to be able to help with the long-term housing needs and the recovery of these communities. Part of that is we also did receive a request from the Governor just moments ago too for a major disaster declaration. As you heard, the President approved an emergency declaration yesterday, which allowed us to really move resources in quickly to start with those initial response efforts. But the major disaster declaration is going to begin to help individuals. You can go to disasterassistance.gov and you can find the type of assistance that will be available once the declaration is approved. It's also going to allow us to help with the long-term repair of all of the critical infrastructure that's been damaged by this storm. Again, go to disasterassistance.gov and you can find out more information about what will be available. We also know that the communications are bad, and you're not going to be able to perhaps access some of the sites that we send you to or make phone calls. So we're going to send teams into the field. We call them disaster survivor assistance teams. So if you see somebody walking around with a FEMA shirt, a FEMA jacket on, and you have a question, pull them aside. They're going to be able to look it up. They're going to have iPads with them. They can find information. They can help you register for assistance if you need to. They should be on the ground starting tomorrow and going into those communities that have been the most impacted. And just to close, FEMA is just one part of the team. This disaster declaration is going to allow us to bring the entire federal family together to provide the much needed support that you're going to have for today and for the duration of the recovery. And Governor, you have my commitment to make sure that we're giving you everything that you need to help with this long recovery that you're going to be faced with. Thank you.
I want to thank the Secretary and the Administrator. This is the fastest emergency declaration that I've ever heard of, and they had resources on the way even before it was processed. It's everything that we could request. It also reminded me of our police chief here, who's doing a great job in Mayfield, having to survey his own officers today to see whose homes were standing and who needed help. Can you imagine that, working 2 straight days to help people when your home isn't even standing? That's what we've got people doing. I also meant earlier, we have lots of thanks out there. I do want to thank AT&T, which specifically got 2 communities, Dawson Springs and Benton, their cell phones back up. They were having trouble communicating even with each other and emergency personnel. We appreciate the second one just came up online. Next, I want to introduce Michael Dossett. He is our Director of Kentucky Emergency Management.
Thank you, Governor. So just a few brief comments. First of all, again, our hearts go out to you and to the families of those who have been lost. A tragic event that will rank among one of Kentucky's worst disasters. Thank you to Secretary Mayorkas and Administrator Criswell. Thank you so much for coming to see on the ground what it looks like in Kentucky. You go to many places in the nation. We follow disasters across the country. Seeing you here present only hours after the event is priceless. Thank you so much. Our Regional Administrator, Gracia Sheck. Gracia and I probably speak most often once a week. She's the administrator. Please raise your hand, Gracia. She is the administrator for Region 4, 8 states. She has been nothing more than exceptional in processing this disaster. In fact, as was indicated, assistance was on the way before we had the first declaration. I just received an email not 2 minutes ago that advised that our expedited application will be signed by the governor, and then it'll be forwarded to Gracia, and I hope to have some news that the governor can share shortly after that. So thank you for the quick response. Some of the things that we have on the ground now, we've talked about. We have the federal USAR team. That is the major search and rescue team. We've requested several more to assist in other areas of our impacted counties. And that's in the works. The IMAT team, this is the overhead team that manages the disaster with us. They're already in the EOC working. We have an incident support team that'll go downrange and assist us in organization. Comments about the long-term housing, thank you, because that's what's going to be primary in this disaster. That team will be here. They will integrate with our staff, and we will draft the plan to move forward, bringing new housing into construction and setting expectations. Folks, this doesn't happen overnight, but the process is starting immediately. John Brogan, are you here? John is my counterpart in the FEMA process. John is our federal coordinating officer. He was here for the ice storm and for the flooding event 3 weeks after that. So he is no stranger to what we need here in Kentucky, and he'll be working this disaster too. I'm just going to end with telling you a very short story on our tour today. We met with a lady by the name of Jenna Adams, who is a council person for the mayor, and she was so significant in speaking about what Kentuckians do with other Kentuckians. She went home and had to deal with her wash in the washing machine that was going to ruin because the power was out, and she was dealing with the aftermath of some recovery issues. And she talked about what neighbors are doing, and we saw it for ourselves, as we've all done in the past 2 days. So I want to end with thanking you for your efforts, thanking you for Kentuckians being Kentuckians and doing what we do. All right. Thank you.
I also want to thank Kentucky's federal delegation. Every single member of that delegation has pushed hard, successfully for the steps that we need. They have been supportive even when we've been out of communication sometimes. We have the congressman from this very region, and I know has been right here with all our people, and that's Congressman James Comer.
Well, I want to thank Governor Beshear for his quick response, with emergency management, with the National Guard, with the state police. I want to thank Secretary Maracas and the FEMA director for coming here immediately. This is going to be an effort that's going to take local, state, and federal cooperation, and we're going to have it. We've pledged that. We had a meeting prior to this press conference with the local elected officials in the counties most adversely affected in West Kentucky. We've already spoken about the immediate needs of power, of water restoration, getting utilities back, communications back. I think everyone's going to be working together. This isn't going to happen overnight. This is going to be a very long process. But in speaking with every local resident in this community and the other communities adversely affected, they all will quickly say, we're going to rebuild, we're going to come back. And that's what you have here in this part of Kentucky, in West Kentucky. People that have a sense of community pride, they want to rebuild, and we're going to be there cooperating on the state, federal, and of course the local level. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the National Guard, which has been so critical these last 18, 19 months in so many different ways. We call on them to do so much. Most recently, they were helping to staff our overrun hospitals at a time when we desperately needed help. Every community they're in, the morale picks up. We know when they're there, we're going to make it. So here's General Larkin to give us an update. General.
Thank you, sir. Currently, the Kentucky National Guard has slightly over, as the governor mentioned, 300 soldiers and airmen on duty. We're operating in 9 Kentucky counties, 106 of which are here in Graves County. We are performing missions in law enforcement augmentation, search and rescue, route clearance, and providing air support and airlift. We continue to anticipate the needs, and we continue to process requests through the Kentucky Operations Center. As always, we are proud to serve the Commonwealth, and we fight as Kentuckians. Thank you.
Finally, we got a real special person. First person I gave a hug to when I got on scene. Mayor here in Mayfield is Kathy Onan. And when I first got to talk to her, since this has happened, we were standing outside of that candle factory. These are all our people, but these are neighbors of hers that she serves every day. Mayor, we're with you, and we love you. Mayor Onan.
Thank you so much, Governor. As the mayor of this tightly knit, small Western Kentucky town, one of the greatest honors I have is watching the first responders all over the county as they run 2 disasters. 40 hours after the greatest disaster to ever hit Kentucky, and especially my hometown, I know, because they're here standing behind me, that my state government and my federal government are running toward that disaster with us. They came to us. I didn't call them, they called me. And that shows me how miraculous of a situation exists in the Commonwealth and within our federal government. When the sun rose over Western Kentucky in Mayfield, the morning after this horrid disaster, I walked out of the fire station of our city government complex. Our city hall was destroyed. Our fire station was destroyed. I don't think there's a pane of glass in any vehicle or property that the city owns that isn't shattered. And as I walked out, I looked across the street to a bank where there was so much rubble. I looked over the city, and I've said it before, it looked like matchsticks. And I did cry. I've tried not to cry a lot, but I did cry. I had to have a moment. And I looked across, and in the rubble of that bank, I saw the flag of the United States that had just recently flown at that fire station. So I walked across the street, and I moved bricks aside, and I took that flag. And standing just over to the right of me were 2 of our first responders. And I went to them and handed it to them, and immediately those two men began to fold it with the most respect. They'd been up all night. They were tired. They were dirty. And they began to fold it as gently and as beautifully as I have ever seen. I've had that flag with me in my possession. It is safely at my home. And it will always hold a place of respect on that city government complex, however it may look in the future. And it will be there. But I know that in the future we will raise another flag which represents everything that's happened here, all the efforts of everyone. And I look forward to that day when we raise that flag of hope and security over that fire station once again. I want to thank the media also. You guys probably don't hear that very much. I want to thank you because you're telling our story. I guess every mayor feels the same way, but we are special here. We are tightly knit, as I said at the beginning, and we may squabble and disagree, but this is what we do. We come together and we work to build. Thank you so much for building with us.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay to take some questions? All right. We'll open it up to questions. Just let us know who your question is for.
Governor, the search and rescue folks, can you tell us whether anybody has been pulled out of the candle factory alive since yesterday's press conference, and if so, what were the circumstances?
So we're still getting information in on the candle factory. The owner has been in contact and believes he has some different information. We are trying to verify it. If so, it may be a better situation and the miracle we were hoping for. But since 3:30 yesterday, we haven't made another live rescue.
Governor, can you give us some hard numbers, anything, a number of people that were in the factory that are missing, the number of people who have been rescued, the number of people, anything?
So the numbers that we had that we were talking about yesterday are still the numbers that we have. Again, the company right now says it has different information, but until we can verify it, we're still where we were yesterday.
Can you tell us what that was?
We're running down that information. There were 110 or so people within the facility. Originally, there were 40 rescues, and then they're still trying to make contact with different individuals to determine exactly how bad it is. I am praying that maybe original estimates of those we've lost were wrong. If so, it's going to be pretty wonderful, but it's way too early.
Is there an estimate in terms of size of damage, number of homes, businesses in Mayfield or beyond?
Well, we're going to have over 1,000 homes that are just gone, and that assessment is going to take some time, but I don't think we'll have seen damage at this scale ever. Yeah.
I've just talked to some folks who can't get their medicine, their home is a pile of rubble. What should I tell those folks? Where can they go? Where can they get the help they need?
Are they here in Graves County?
They're here in Graves County.
Do we have some of our Graves County responders? Medicine and all, we're sending people.
I believe we're setting up at the Grace County Fairgrounds.
Yes.
FedEx.
Right. So we're dropping water at the fairgrounds here. We're having all the packages now delivered there from different groups. Michael?
Governor, there's a mobile pharmacy on the way to assist.
And there's a mobile pharmacy on the way to assist.
One more question.
Sure.
for you. As you look ahead to rebuilding, I know that's, right now you're just trying to still save lives and assess everything, but will you look to rebuild in a way that makes sure that there are more safety structures in place in the event that more tornadoes could
Right. Every time we rebuild, we want to be more resilient. We don't want to see this ever happen again. With that, I think when it's all said and done, when they evaluate the power of this tornado, I think it's pretty hard to build a structure that can ultimately hold up to it. Whether these structures have been brick or wood or steel, some of these even metal buildings, they're gone. When this tornado hit, it didn't take a roof off, which is what we've seen in the past. It exploded the whole house. People, animals, and the rest just gone. So yes, we need to rebuild and be more resilient. Yes, there were a lot of warnings, but this thing is so powerful that I don't think there's any blame. We are just people together trying to move forward.
Governor, what is the latest figure you have for the number of people that were killed in this disaster and the number of people who have been injured? We haven't really talked much about those who.
We don't have a firm number on injuries. We know that hospital here, I believe, saw at least 80 people in the first 8 hours. Bowling Green's hospital, significant too. Again, on the death count, we know that we're going to have at least 4 counties that are in double digits. Again, I think the best that we can hope for would be the 50. But I think it's going to be significantly worse than that. Remember, we're still finding bodies. I mean, we've got cadaver dogs in towns that they shouldn't have to be in.
And I know early you guys talked about this a little bit, but ballpark, how many people might be without homes?
Thousands of people without homes. We don't have an exact number of houses because right now we're trying to count people, and that's where we have our main focus.
How many confirmed deaths are there at this point?
Let me get the number of the confirmation. I get the reports in on what we have seen, but they're not confirmed until the person is fully identified and the family is notified. You have the confirmed number, Michael?
We do not, sir, and as is the normal progress. The Kentucky Health Department certifies that for the governor.
Yeah. Best case scenario, we're at 50 that we thought we had earlier. I'm not optimistic for the best case scenario, but I'm certainly going to hope for it. I know we're over 10 in Warren County. We're over 10 and growing in Hopkins County. We have significant loss here. We're over 10 in Muhlenberg, in a town, 100 and something people. I think we're at 3 to 5 in Caldwell, and so those numbers are going to continue to grow as we're able to go house to house and home to home.
Governor, you and I, we know what Kentucky's about. We're from here, but to see the attention that the state has gotten on a global scale from this, what do you hope people take away from seeing Kentucky news and the resiliency of our people here?
Well, first, we're grateful for the outpouring of support, of attention, of prayers from this country and from the world. It's all we could ask for, and it's just pure love, one country united, worried about us. What I hope they see is that we also love one another. We are good people that care about one another. We open our homes, we open our businesses. As people get power on, they're reaching out to everybody else to invite them in. The number of emergency responders or just volunteers, my dad's from Dawson Springs, not far from Madisonville, and the number of volunteers when I was there yesterday from Madisonville is truly special. So I hope they see a state that cares about one another, that's willing to grieve with one another too, but is strong enough to rebuild. Yes.
Governor, do you have any idea when some of the families of the factory workers will be getting some answers? We've talked to dozens who say they've turned over identifying marks and names, but they haven't heard anything.
Well, the process, and it's not a process I agree with, is that the families are notified after an individual is fully identified there by the coroner or others. I think as we've seen more events like this, we just need to be more upfront about the possibilities for those families. For each of them, I'm really sorry. You're not supposed to lose people the way we've lost them these last 2 years, and you're not supposed to lose people like this, and to not know and to not have the information has got to make it that much harder.
Do you know if anyone here in this room has information about how many people have been reported missing to the Griggs County coroner?
Do we have a report on total number of missing? Yeah, and the challenge is we'll have the reports that come in. We'll try to compile and move forward. I know in Bowling Green, that's being done by some volunteers that are there that create the list. In Dawson Springs, it was multiple pages, single-spaced, with communications down is the real challenge, right? When your cell phones don't work in these communities, exactly how do you find people to truly know how many are missing? And again, we're 40 hours in, and just the level of devastation does make having the specific numbers I know you want just difficult to have.
So, quick question, talking to a teacher earlier, they haven't been able to get in touch with some of their schools. You checked on what's going on in schools?
Yeah. So our school systems right now are primarily staging grounds. Staging grounds where we want to get power up and going. We're sending a large generator to the Dawson Springs school, and they are truly functioning as shelter, as staging grounds. It's a special place that is just as important in the midst of this. I know in these communities without power, obviously we won't have school tomorrow, and that word is going to be getting out there.
I just had one thing, I'm sorry to interrupt
Sure.
you. Just to answer the previous question, if families are still seeking information about loved ones they are missing, they can go to His House Ministries here in Mayfield.
Okay. His House Ministries here in Mayfield for those people we're trying to find. It's going to take time to get school systems back up and functional. And in some areas, I think it's going to happen faster than others. We talk about 18 counties. We've got some that are primarily intact, but need power, need phone service, and we'll want to be back in school as quickly as we can get that. For others, like here and like Dawson, it's going to take some more time. Yeah.
You mentioned yesterday a little bit about this, but do you have any more insight into the employees that were in the candle factory when the tornado hit? Were some given the option to leave? What was communicated to them about what options they had?
Yeah. Right now, I'm unaware of what was communicated to the individuals in the factory. I do know, based on accounts of those who have gotten out, and then also where we found people who haven't, that it appears most were sheltering in the place that they were told to shelter. We've heard some accounts, or I have, of moving to that area. I hope that area was as safe as it could be, but this thing got hit directly by the strongest tornado we could have possibly imagined.
Were they sheltering in the same place?
But there is a portion that I believe that they are trained to go to, and we do think many people, maybe even most people, were able to get to that point. But again, this is information coming from some who made it out. From what we see there, we'll learn more on that as the days go forward. Our operation right now is recovery.
Governor, what can you tell us just on your initial reaction of being in Princeton, being in Dawson Springs, two places that are special to you?
I'm emotional after 2 days. This is a place that, Dawson's a place where I'd go and I'd sit on my grandparents' front porch about 2 weeks a year, one at Christmas and one at the barbecue festival. They'd all sing. They tell me not to sing. And that same porch I went to check on their house. And their house is still there, but 1 block up and left or right is just gone, just flattened. And again, for folks that can only see the image, you stand in the midst of this and everything you see, everything, right, left, forward, backwards, is gone, and you can see for maybe even miles that you previously couldn't. And so it hurts, but I know it doesn't hurt me nearly as much as the people who live here, and they know whose house that is that's not there anymore. So electricity is coming on in some places faster than others. It depends on the damage. I know Marshall County is coming up a little bit faster. Here in Graves County, it's a work in progress. It really ends up depending on how many lines are down, how significantly. It appears that work is really moving. On the water side, it depends on what exactly has been damaged and what it takes to operate it. I know in Dawson, a generator was able to, or they believe is able to get the pumps back going. Again, in Marshall County, I think water is being restored. Again, it's community by community and what it's going to take.
Even if you can't confirm numbers, can you confirm that last night into today, you said there hasn't been a rescue since Saturday at 3:30. Have more bodies been pulled, recovery bodies? You just cannot say how many last night and today.
I think we are still trying to get the most accurate information. We expect there to be a significant death toll. We are checking on new information coming in from the company and hope to have a clearer picture on that. I mean, there have been I think, multiple bodies, but just the wreckage is extensive as we continue to try to get through it.
Governor, anything from the National Weather Service surveys preliminarily in terms of what they're seeing, winds, wind, anything like that that's come to you?
We have the National Weather Service here that could answer any question.
Good afternoon. My name is Christine Welbus. I'm the Warning Coordination Meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Paducah, Kentucky. And we have Mr. Steve Eddy, who is our meteorologist in charge at the National Weather Service in Paducah. And for the last 2 days, we have had several teams out surveying the damage. Of course, as you all know, it spans a good number of miles, so there's a lot of ground to cover. But I did do an aerial survey yesterday, and I can tell you that the track is continuous from south of Casey in Fulton County all the way to at least Beaver Dam, where we finally turned around. So the damage that we have surveyed so far indicates that the rating is at least an EF3. However, we have world-renowned experts who are on the surveys right now, and also experts within the National Weather Service that are looking at the data, and will be looking at possibly upgrading that rating as well. On behalf of the National Weather Service, our hearts go out to each and every person that has been affected by this tornado. It not only affects us here locally at our offices, but across the entire Weather Service, where we've had numerous people come to us and say how deeply sorry they are for everything that's happened here. But as we get more information, we will definitely release that to you. We have lots of surveys to continue to do over the next couple of days, and a lot of work to do still.
Is that EF3 for Mayfield? Or which part of the county that you?
That's the highest rating that we found along the entire track in our area. Our area serves parts, EF3, graded through. Right. And there are locations along the path, Casey, Dawson Springs, Earlington, Bremen, that are definitely harder hit areas.
How long is that path, miles?
We have not figured out that because the survey has not been completed. As you go south into Tennessee, that's another Weather Service office that is covering that. And then you go east of Muhlenberg County, and the National Weather Service in Louisville covers everywhere east of Muhlenberg County. So again, there's surveys ongoing for the last couple of days, and we still have to figure out exactly how long the path is.
Great. We'll just take one more, and we'd say that I think it's at least a 3, and look around. I'm not a meteorologist, but I expect we'll find it's much more severe. So, yeah.
Question, I know obviously this is historic for Kentucky, but are you concerned that this kind of extreme weather could be the new normal, and that this is a reflection of climate change?
You know, right now, I can't process whether this is a new normal or not. We're just trying to identify the dead, locate the living, reunite families, try to give people a place to stay and something to eat, get them their medicine, meet their needs. All the rest of it, over time, we can talk about. And what I'd say is, please just focus on our people and the help that they need and they deserve. As we get more information, as we get concrete numbers, we will be transparent about them. We will get them to you as soon as we can. Please understand we're 40 hours in the midst of rubble, but we're tough people. We got a ton of help. Thank you to the federal government. We could not ask for a stronger response. Thank you to our federal delegation. We're going to get through it, and we're going to get through it together. All right. Thanks.
What was the dollar amount again that was raised from last day?
They can get you the specific. Come this way. Hey, how are you?